So what do you remember about Derek coming into the club a few times?
Well, I knew of Derek because my coach, Harry Anderson, had worked with him for quite a while during the summer, just out of his garage and stuff. And he pretty much told me he was pretty good. So I kind of knew that he was pretty good. And I wasn't surprised at all when I seen he had a left hook that was just a masher. I would have paid money to have one that was that good.
So when a guy like Derek comes in, what do you try to do right away? Do you try to humiliate him? Do you try to develop him? What's the mentality?
My job basically was I just work with him in the ring and I'd try and show him different things and stuff like that. There's very few people that ever need to be brought down a notch that come to this gym.
Right.
Occasionally you'll get one that's pretty cocky, and that was also my job. I'd just go in there and kind of lay on him and push him around and slap him around a little bit.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a heavyweight named Dwayne Coleman. He was very, very good. And we had a young kid named B.J. Tomlinson, and they were going to have me work with B.J. He was new, and he was cocky, and he was beating up everybody at the club. So they just said, well, embarrass him. So Dwayne Coleman was cornering for him, and he told Dwayne, he says, they want me to work with that fat guy. And he says, yeah. And he says, well, I'm afraid I'll hurt him. He says, don't worry. He says, I'll stop it before you hurt him too bad. After the second round, he was a huffing and a puffing. And I said, come on, you really get out here and fight. And he come out of there with a flurry like you couldn't believe it. I was just laughing. But he was a lot more humble after that. He said, I'd never dreamed an old fat guy like you could be that tough. You know, I said, you just gotta learn to just be nice to people, and you don't have to worry about it. But
now, do you think Derek ever reached his full potential in boxing?
Oh no, he didn't do it long enough, and you know he moved on and had to get a job and got a wife and things like that. He had the, like I said, he had the kind of skill that I never had, but he had that kind of punching power where he could knock somebody out with one punch. I never did. I had halfway decent power. Probably the best compliment I ever got from one of the opposing coaches after I came back as a coach after we hadn't boxed for like 15 years. Alvino Pina, he's a Mexican guy out of Davenport. Great guy, but he never says a good word about anybody, even his own fighters, you know. And he comes up to me and he says, who are you? He says, I should remember you. And I said, I told him who I was. He says, yeah, I remember you. He says, you used to beat up all my fighters. He said, you weren't that good. He said, but he was a tough son of a bitch. He said, that to me was one of the greatest compliments I ever got from anybody. And that was me. I was above average. And the only reason I ever won a state title is because I worked harder than everybody else.
So what was the tipping point? Because Derek was probably a 500 fighter, and you're talking about his potential. You know, did he not work hard enough? Was he too nice? What was?
It was just a matter. He wasn't around enough to get there, and he was good at all sports and everything else. So he was a busy kid, you know. But potentially he could have been a national champion, in my opinion.
And people responded to Derek, didn't they? They liked him?
Oh yeah, we had when he was fighting, we had the greatest group of guys I ever remember down here. We had We had him and his two brothers, and Paul, and Dwayne Coleman, and I mean, we were winning state tournaments like there was no tomorrow, because nobody could touch hardly any of them, you know. So we had like 5 guys that were expected to win state tournaments. Derek was in a weight class that there was a guy from Muscatine who boxed his whole life, so it was kind of tough to win, because he'd been at it a long time, and the refs play favorites a little bit.
What does it take to turn great potential in boxing into realized potential? Because it's a really hard sport. What does it take to get there?
The whole thing of it is you just teach them to have confidence in themselves, and you teach them that with a little hard work you can do anything that you want to. And if you can get that through them, then they'll succeed in life. It's like, to heck with boxing. It doesn't matter whether they win one fight or whether they never win a fight. You know, if you can teach them to succeed in life, there's a huge success story. And there was never any doubt with Derek or his brothers that they could do just about anything they wanted to. They were more down here just for the fun of it than anything else.
He dropped down, you gotta drop down with it. Like that there. We had to come down with him instead of leaning over him, because then you're off balance. We want to drop down with him. Now don't let him get below you, because then you're off balance.
I think of tough, fearless. What comes to mind?
Yeah. What do you remember, like the first time you met him, or the first memory you have of Derek coming out here?
My first memory was that he hit hard. He hit real hard. He had a real nice left hook, quiet, and respectful. That's what I...
You think you realized his full potential?
No.
Why is that?
He disappeared. One day he just didn't... He probably had other things to do in life. School, family, but no, he didn't reach his potential.
What does it take to get there, though? We asked that question previously, but what does it take to reach your potential in boxing? That's a really hard sport.
It's a combination of things. One is you have to be dedicated, you have to work hard, you have to listen, and you have to be fearless to a point, and you need good training, good trainers, and you need excellent sparring, and you need to compete. We start from the floor, work, we go to the ring for the sparring, schooling, whatever, and then you take it to the fight. And you need that and a number of fights to improve. You need as many fights as you can. In each fight you have to improve. There's got to be some sort of improvement. Win or lose, there has to be improvement. And competing with the best. That's pretty much what it takes.
So when you say Derek had a lot of talent, what was maybe one or two things he needed to do to get the edge he needed to do?
He needed to stay in the gym more, and he needed to fight. He needed more fights. He was a work in progress. He was progressing when he finally decided to retire. But yeah, he has a good hand speed, good power. He could take a good punch. He had pretty much everything you need to be a champion. And as far as potential, you mean like a world professional champion.
I mean, what was his season? I mean, we just heard he might have been a national champion. I mean, can you see that in him?
Yeah, I could have seen it. Yeah, yeah, it could have been there. It takes a lot of work, and like I said, all the things I said previously, and the right draws. You need some right draws, just like in a NCAA basketball tournament. They want good draws, and he had everything other than the experience. He just needed to stay with it a little longer. We've got a couple of guys that stayed with it, and they still haven't reached potential. They have different potential as an amateur as you do a professional. It's just a stepping stone.
Do you remember the first day you met Derek Peck?
I think it was down to the club Harry Anderson brought you.
Yeah, we drove down together.
Yeah, that's been a few years.
You're probably my age now.
Yeah, I was about 30.
What kind of training did you do with Derek? I mean, what was his training regimen? What kind of things did you do with Derek for boxing?
Basically, hit the pads and work the heavy bag, and he did a lot of the running and stuff on his own. But we had him do copycatting, a lot of copycatting, and the opponents would have to move and they just throw punches. I think that was something he enjoyed doing. Some of the fighters didn't like it. I think we got 2 broken noses out of that deal. Yeah, a lot of sparring.
Was he good?
Very fast hands, a lot of power. Yeah, he the champion at that time, he dropped. He dropped 2 of the champions at that time. I think the one was Ron Williams. He was 4 or 5 time state Golden Gloves champ. I don't know how many times he won the AAU and USA. But he had him hurt real bad. It was one of those notorious long counts. So basically, I thought that was Derek's title that night, but he didn't get it. That was disappointing, to say the least. I can't remember the guy's name. The other guy was out of Davenport.
Laverne Clark?
Yeah, Laverne Clark. He was a good fighter, but couldn't get to him. You just couldn't get to him. That was a good fighter. He wasn't around that long.
So, when you look at potential on the spectrum, you've seen a lot of fighters. Is Derek in that top 10%? Is he top 5? I mean, where do you put him on all the fighters you've seen potential-wise?
Potential-wise, top 5 easy. It's just a matter of time and more dedication to the sport itself, where he's going to school and working, and that's a disadvantage. When a lot of athletes that want to make it that far, that's all they do is they train. So, if he had that kind of training constantly, the potential to go a long ways.
So if you're saying he's in the top 5, where on that spectrum did he reach his potential? If the ceiling's national champion, how close was he?
Oh, he was up there. He just probably another year and a half right in there. I think get your real potential. I think we need at least 4 years, 4 or 5 years, to get to your peak. He was 10, 12, 13 fights maybe.
Not very many.
That's with a little bit of training and time spent. Yeah, he went quite a ways. I would say what got him there was he worked hard, but he had heavy hands. When he hit somebody, they were instantly on guard from their out because he could hit so hard. So he had that going from him. It's just a matter of tuning in all the other skills. You can teach somebody to box in given time. Get all the combinations and get everything fluid. And you can teach him how to throw with power and speed, but natural power is something different. You just have it.
Was he fun to train?
Yeah. Yeah, good athlete. Good personality. Didn't negative, none of the negative crap. Yeah.
Did you ever spar with him?
Once.
Yeah. How'd that
I got a headache. My neck hurt. Not too good.
go? Did you get any shots in on him?
Oh yeah. I was gonna kick his butt good, but then I decided the pain wasn't worth it anymore. Yeah, that was when he first come out. Shortly after that, I don't get in the ring no more. We had when Derek was out, we had a lot of good kids. We were probably we had probably 50 kids out at the time. And there was a lot of guys in his weight. Well, a lot of 152, 47, 65, 70. I mean, he had a lot of people to work with. So he worked with a lot of lightweights. Well, he was 65, but he was sparring some of the best fighters we had at that time with a lot of experience, 152 pounders. So he had to deal with speed. Then he had to deal with some bigger guys, 178, 200, his older brother. I think we went to, is in Marshalltown. And this guy was three-time state champion. Where was he from? You remember?
Lee County.
Lee County. Yeah, that big super heavyweight.
Yeah, he's super heavyweight. I think he has about 170.
Yeah. And we were just trying to get a fight, and so it's supposed to be an exhibition bout because of the weight difference and everything. But you still have to, you still have to score. Well, it ended up being a fight. And we beat his ass. That was pretty amazing. The guy was really upset, but he tried to come on, but Derek was so much faster, and this guy couldn't really get to him. And Derek had the same kind of power, so it just messed the guy up bad. It was really a big upset. Not for us, but it's pretty cool, I thought. Yeah, it was cool. That was a good one.
That was fun. I remember that.
Yeah.
I talked to him after the fight, and he's like, "Man, I had no idea that was coming. You surprised the shit out of me. I can't believe how hard you hit."
That was
He's a
good.
good guy.
Yeah, he was. He made a mistake. He underestimated you.
Yeah.
Well, it was a possibility, but you needed more time. There was your group, some of the guys that you graduated with too. I mean, you had a lot going for you, and out of your close friends, and they were good guys, hard-working guys, but you had the most potential. But my thing was trying to get you to understand, to become a world-class fighter, it takes time. You guys all wanted to do it in a year. You wanted to do it in a year, and 2 years was pushing it. And trying to get you to understand that, it's like when you played football, you're not on varsity your first year. You got to work your way into it. Or wrestling, which is a good. You got your novice fighters and novice wrestlers. It takes a few years to become a, first-string wrestler, and you become into the national level. You've got to have, all the way through high school nowadays, all the way through grade school to compete in wrestling. But boxing has got that way. When you come out, basically, boxing, the 8-year-olds started competing a lot. They had their own nationals. It was a tough time. Boxing really grew a lot in those days.